All right, a very good morning to you, the viewer of Western Television. This is the second day into the month of the last month, that is the December month, which also really sums up the year. And that means we are going to be entering yet another year. And with these remaining days to wind up the year, the question is how is this year coming to an end? Remember, yesterday was the 1st of December, and we also really marked a celebration that's of the World AIDS Day, which is an annual event commemorated globally, and we did see the celebrations taking place across the country. And remember, Rural City already had their commemorations. That is to mark this day combined together with the launch of the 16 days of activism. And if you really look at the two, I love what the speaker whom I hosted here said. That is Fande Jimmy Baiga, who said the two are like cousins. It means you cannot separate that is HIV infections from gender-based violence. Definitely the other must be also influencing on the other. So I think it is interconnected. Therefore, we must also be able to talk about gender-based violence continuously, because we are still within the 16 days of activism. And I really want to say, yesterday we also had what we call the World AIDS Day celebrations. And this is also where we must also interest ourselves in ending HIV by 2030, because if you look at this year's intervention, its theme is talking about accelerating interventions to end HIV by 2030. That means we're just counting less than 5 years to wind up also the years that we are set to make sure by 2030 the world does not have new infections. But the question is, how are we working towards that, given the fact that today we are having also our prevalence rate, that's of Uganda, starting that is at 5.1%, that is between adults of age 15 to 49 years, and this is also already at 6.6% among women, and then 3.6 among men. That means women are more risky to HIV infections. That is also really according to the studies we are seeing here. And if you look at Western sub-region and you look at our regional prevalence rate is 2.3, which is also really something which we must also really interest ourselves to end HIV by 2030. Now the HIV prevalence rates are highest in the rural city with 3.8%, and this is also given the fact that today we are our urban city, and urban centers also have these challenges. And that's why we are standing at 3.8%. And that is something we must also interest ourselves. And coming next is Nebi with 3.8%. And then Zombo is coming, that is in the line there with 3.7%. Meanwhile, the lowest rates are in Yumbe with 1.1%. Maracha again with 1.1%. And Kowoko with 1.2%. That is for the prevalence rates in Western sub-region. And that is one thing also which we must also talk about. And really, if you at all you are another person out there and you feel ready for these things here, there are measures which I will be telling you later on to engage in before you take any actions. Because somebody was able to say, I love one campaign that was on social media yesterday, do not be counted among the statistics. So I think it's quite possible if you still have also maybe adhered some of these ways that I'll be mentioning to you later on here. Now, new HIV infections, that is for adults between 15 to 49 years, declined. That is from 52,000, that was in 2022, to 38,000, that is by December 2023, and that is according to reports from Ministry of Health. And then this is something which we must also really say it is quite good. I believe the interventions are working. We must therefore listen to what the medical doctors are telling us. Now, 30 new infections per week are being registered, and 80% of the HIV new infections are also said to be among the young people, most especially adolescent girls, representing 4 out of 5%. These adolescent girls, due to some of the issues that also we know they go through, they are subject to really certain things that we must also really interest ourselves as parents. Why is it most amongst adolescent girls? 80% of the new infections are said to be amongst them. Do a research. Move out at night to happening places. Which kind of age brackets are you going to be seeing? Mostly it is the adolescent girls. Why? Because sometimes due to the hard economy, they are forced certain things. Maybe they need soap, they need sanitary pads, which parents may not be able to provide in time. Then they're subject to also really maybe boyfriends who at the end of the day also give them this. And you find out a girl has over 3 boyfriends. Then they have reasons. This is for hair, the other one is for soap, this one is for love. And then you really wonder why all this is happening, and yet a boy may not be in position to have all this. So I think that also is justified by all those issues, and I feel we must also be able to talk about this. Let our girls understand that HIV is still a reality, because during an interaction with some person out there recently told me that most girls fear pregnancy than HIV AIDS. Is it true? Yes. This is why I'm saying this. They will have issues that condom does this for me, it makes my stomach swell, that makes me do this and that. Really, you wonder these are excuses which are they are not enough. One's life. This is what they always say, and they really say the oils in this. I really feel something needs to be done to make sure people understand why it is very much important for them to be always having protection. This is something which I feel adolescent girls also should be talked about, and this goes back to parents. Most especially the aunties and then the uncles for the boy child. Let's talk about sex education to our children when it is still early, other than leaving it also to themselves to explore. Because once they explore, they're not going to be getting the right information, and information they're going to be getting are always one that is distorted, first of all, and then secondly, to mislead them. So I think it is quite important for us to be talking about that. And if you look at the statistics, we are saying an estimated 1.5 million people are living with HIV by December 2003, and children between 0 to 14 years account for 5.1 also of all HIV also related cases. And this is something which we are saying happening in India. And definitely, if you look at the 49,000 people, these are aged between 15 years living with HIV/AIDS in West Nile sub-region. We are having a total of about 49,000 of that's already happening in there, and this is exactly something we must also talk about. And 80% of the that is persons living with HIV are on antiretroviral, that is ART, by 23, meaning that they're already taking their drugs. And really sometimes also we hear such stories of what we call them also pulling out. Sometimes they feel due to also some issues of the judgment by society, what we call the stigma. Others end up pulling out, and that is really something which we feel is really very much wrong. And 92% of all persons living with HIV know their status, which is a target of 95%, because it is always very much key to know your status. The first thing is know your status. And this means we must also really have ourselves tested. As we are talking about the World AIDS Day, you can actually take the advantage by moving to the nearest health facility now and have yourselves tested. And that is how, at the end of the day, you are going to be knowing your status, and then you may also really enroll on the drugs. Definitely, HIV is no longer the disease which we must also say at the people. They must also not worry about. Much as you know your status, it's possible. You can still embark on the drugs, and then at the end of the day, you live longer, and that is exactly what we must also be able to talk about. And children, that is ages between 0 to 14 years, are also lagging with 83% of children living with HIV knowing their status. Meanwhile, 77% are on ART, and only 72 with suppressed viral load. That is exactly what we must talk about. And an estimated 10,000 children living with HIV are not also on ART, and others are also on ART. That is exactly what we must also really continuously encourage and advocate for. And if you look at this, we have an estimated that's of 2,400 children aged between 0 to 14 years are living with HIV. And that is also really where we're talking about 83% are also really said to be living that disease, and that constitutes that's about 1,994 on ART by September this year. And an estimated that's 500 children are not on ART, which is something also we must be able to solely acknowledge, because some parents may not be able to solely accept that their children are positive. Tell them, because sometimes also really these children get infected unknowingly, just because the parents did not also know their statuses, and then at the end of the day, you find out the children also get to be also really born with this disease. But really today, when we talk about this, it's quite also really possible for us to eradicate this. Just moving the nearest health facility, and that's why the antenatal visits are always very much important. Because first of all, if you also get infected, because most times we see people getting also infected unknowingly, either by their spouses. So I think to avoid the risk of your children also being born with a disease, during antenatals, make sure that you visit the nearest health facility to know your status, because during antenatals, that is exactly what we also really see happening in there. And I feel also we must also be able to talk about this. And if you look at the HIV theme for this year, it is also really accelerating interventions to end HIV by 2030. And if you look at all this, you realize also really HIV prevalence among adults between ages 15 to 49 years. That is also an estimate by Ministry of Health by 2003. You realize that Germany is standing at 2.4%. That is for the new HIV prevalence. That is also something we are seeing. Arua City is at 2.3%. Arua District is at 2.3%. Then Arua City is at 3.8%. Koboko is at 1.2%. Madiokolo is at 1.9%. Maracha is at 1.1%. Moyo is at 2.4%. And Nebi is also really highest is among the highest in India with 3.8%. We have also really Obongi 1.7%. We do have Pakwach is at 3.5%. Terego is at 1.4%, and then Yumbe with the lowest at 1.1%. We do have also really Zombo is at with 1.1%, and if you look at all this, at the districts also with the highest prevalence rates, we do have Arua City, we have Nebi, and then Zombo. Meanwhile, for those that also have registered the lowest also rates, we do have Maracha with 1.1%, and then Yumbe also with 1.1%. And new HIV infections are said to be increased. That's from 26%, where we did have 3,711 cases registered in 2002 to also 4,681 new infections. That is by also last year in there. And if you look at all this, these are details also which we did also receive from the monthly reports. And HIV infections are said to be, new infections are said to be on the rise. It means there are certain things that we are not adhering to, but we also need to also talk about this. And 2004, so we have so far registered, that's 4,134 new HIV infections reported. That's between January to October, and the projections already of about 5 new infections are likely to be registered. That's in 2004. And children between the ages of 0 to 9% account, that is for 4.4% of new HIV infections. That, and also adolescents between 10 to 19 years have accounted to 6%. That is of new HIV infection. That means we are all at the risk of contracting this disease so long as we do not also adhere to certain also calls. And that is also where we must also talk to our children about, or what we call early sex. It is also very risky, and as parents we must also be able to talk to children about that. And that is where at the end of the day we shall be also really advocating for those issues. And what are the risk factors accelerating also really the new HIV infection? Somebody may be interested in knowing that. We have negative social cultural norms and values. For instance, early marriages, where people look at the girls as sources of meat. Very much wrong in our society. Then teenage pregnancy, which is at 22% in Western sub-region, compared to the national target, that is below the 15%. Early sexual debut, we have widow inheritance. These are factors among the cultural, social-cultural norms and values which are promoting this. And if you look at widow inheritance, if your brother dies today, even if he dies of HIV, they will always hand your wife to them. What if this wife is positive? What if this in-law you want to hand over is positive? These are factors, these are drivers, which at the end of the day will fuel this new HIV infection. And child marriages, we see girls all sorts of meat. Most times in Western sub-region, this is something which we always talk about, where people give their girls for marriages as early as 17 years. Very much wrong. That is also another factor which I feel is contributing to the high also rates among the girls. And then teenage pregnancy, where the girls also start indulging in sexual activities at an early age. At the end of the day, we see them getting pregnant. And that is also another factor which we feel is very, very much also contributing to the HIV infections. What about the multiple sexual partnerships? You are married, but you still feel you need to be eating on side dishes. Another factor which I feel is very much wrong is that, and therefore we must also really draw means to eradicate that. Meanwhile, we have sexual and gender-based violence. If at all the wife starts fighting with the family, and that is why somebody was able to say the two are like cousins. If you look at gender-based violence and then HIV, definitely they are interrelated. And this is why this is coming up on board, and that means gender-based violence is still fueling up on new HIV infection. Then what about transactional sex? These are the commercial sex workers, where you give me this, I give you that. Definitely, it is also another factor which also could be contributing to the new HIV infection. But meanwhile, we do have income inequality and poverty. And this is also quite common where families also where there's poverty. Most especially, this is clearly exhibited at the higher institutions of learning, where girls would not receive and boys would not receive money timely. We tend to see them also rushing out for sugar daddies. We see them going for sugar mummies, which at the end of the day is very much risky. And that means also the poverty definitely is contributing. What about locally here? These girls need pads. How often as parents do you buy these things for your daughters? How often do you buy lotions for your girls? And how they dress? Do you ask yourself, where did these girls get these nice clothes they are putting on from? These are factors which I feel are contributing to the new HIV infection. What about stigma and discrimination? Once some people are stigmatized and discriminated, and then they feel also very much bad. Sometimes we see them reacting by also really spreading this disease. And one speaker during the World AIDS Day commemorations actually said this: we are the ones who carry this disease. If you play with us, then you know what to do. And this is actually where they made a call to end stigma also in there. And that is exactly what we did see happening. And if you look at this, then non-disclosure, some people not want to also really let the world know that they're HIV positive. Then inequality to access HIV prevention services like care and treatment is also another factor which we feel is contributing that. And we are going to be pausing in these discussions. And really, we want to also really rest for now. We are going to be taking this short commercial break. When we return back, we are still going to be looking at how we can be absolutely attaining the 2030 mission, that is of ending HIV infections. And that is where we also need you as the viewer to constantly contribute this and also share your thoughts whether this is possible, because we are counting less than 6 years now. I should say we are counting 5 months, because this year is now coming to an end. We already into the second day of the last month of the year, that is December. It means this year surely has come to an end. But how is it ending? Have you known your status as it is coming to an end? We take a short commercial break. When we return back, we shall be continuing with the discussions from there. My name is Farish Majid.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Look out for StarTimes Solar to unwrap your lighting and entertainment experience this Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
At only 700 shillings daily charge, get yourself a StarTimes S50 that comes with lighting, phone charging, strong lithium battery, radio with a flash port and a Bluetooth speaker. For more entertainment needs, get yourself a StarTimes S130 that comes with an extra 32-inch TV screen and 2 years free StarTimes subscription. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are into the second half of the show. My name is Farish Majid. In case you're just joining us right now, you are most welcome aboard. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show that comes your ways every Mondays to Fridays, and today is the first edition of the show for this week. It's a Monday morning. In case you are still home and wondering whether it's a Sunday, please, it's a Monday morning. You have to wake up and go start hustling to make ends meet, and that is where at the end of the day you will be achieving whatever you want to achieve. But you're not going to be achieving that while in bed. Definitely you have to wake up and move out to where you always hustle, and that is also where at the end of the day you will be getting what you want. Because usually the saying is that there's nothing that comes on a silver plate, and there's nothing you are going to be getting without hard work. And that is where I'm encouraging you to also move out of that bed, step out, move. That is also your various areas of also hustle in there, and that is where at the end of the day you will be getting what you want in there. And earlier we were talking about the HIV prevalence rates in West Nile sub-region, and I was able to ask now what are some of those interventions that the government is making towards realizing this year's theme, which talks about accelerating interventions to end HIV by 2030. And if you really look at that, we are talking about reducing new HIV infections. The focus has now been put on young people, according to the medics, who account for significant proportion. That is of also really the numbers in there, and this is through safe male circumcision. And this is for males alone, and they do have some cultural norms. For instance, what we call the FGM, the female genital mutilation, in some areas of Kapchorwa and Karamoja is actually said to be also encouraging the new HIV infections, and that means this is also discouraged. But rather we're encouraging safe male circumcision, and adolescents and young people also, we have also seen peer-led service delivery models, such as also the women STIs, teen pregnancy HIV also have also been established to make sure that message about this disease is moved amongst the young people. And if you look at all this, you read most also the young people at also the risk of contracting this disease. And that is where we are seeing groups are being established. And if in West Nile sub-region we have, with support from RVC, we have seen also a number of groups are being established. For instance, the adolescent, young people and adolescent peer supports. And that is also where we've seen this being established. And all this is to make sure that the knowledge of HIV reaches, and now increasing comprehensive knowledge. And this is through enhancing new HIV awareness programs, and that is where we are being also sensitized about that. Men and women are also being talked about also this, and now this is also with the aim for 34.8% and 26.7% respectively, and that is where we are seeing also the men and women at risk. Now, giving them that information is quite important, because sometimes people get this disease unknowingly. Many times they may not also be understanding how this disease is being moved. And that is how, at the end of the day, people feel something needs to be done. Raising awareness about this disease is actually what most are undertaking. And I believe this is working out. And I hope at the end of the day, people who also need this also knowledge get it. And improving HIV prevention, and that's also where we have seen methods are being improved. And condom distribution has also been taking place. And this is also to reduce on also these factors. And then counseling is another also the way we are seeing also really that becoming possible. And improving the health sector is actually what we are seeing, where increase to antiretroviral therapy is also is on the rise. And this is to ensure that 95% of people living with HIV are on ART by 2025. And this is also really a test policy that is being undertaken. Now, accreditation of health facilities to improve ART. This is whereby a total of 169 health facilities are being accredited by Ministry of Health to provide comprehensive ART services. That is an increase that is from 163%. That is 106 in 2023. And in April this year, Ministry of Health launched a 6-month program named Munonye. That means Find the Child HIV campaign. That is for children and adolescents, with the aim of identifying children and adolescents with HIV who are not on ART, where an estimated, that is 10,000 children are living with HIV who are not solely on ART. The campaign is not Northern Uganda. including that's Western Sub-region, Midwestern, and Central Uganda, because these areas have got high numbers of cases and adolescents not on earth. That is why this campaign of Munonye is coming up, and Munonye is a Luganda word that means you should look for. A campaign that is targeting young children also really to also make sure that they embark and also really enroll on that. Now, reducing HIV/AIDS related deaths is another strategy, and remember, the more people die of HIV, the more people also lose focus and they feel their time has come up. Because if you look at by the year early 2000s, and this is when the disease was also really very, very much common and people used to fear. And once you got this disease, this is where the stigma could come up on board. People would feel that this is the end of you. People will start avoiding sharing food with you. People will start also sharing other resources with you, not knowing that this disease is first of all spread when there's blood also really connections. And that is where many people also had issues about stigma, where you would have different caps, where you would have different places. People would fear you. And that is something which I really feel contributed to also the rise of also these new infections, because many people also live now in fear. And there are strategies also really among that is also to reduce on the HIV-related deaths, and I feel this is actually the way to go, and that would enable many people also really live also longer in there. Now, eliminate mother to child transmission. This is another strategy, because if you look at children really born with this disease, sometimes they suffer a lot, and that is why new strategies are being put in place to make sure that mothers do not also transmit this disease to their children. It goes back to them. Let's have ourselves tested. Let's also really go for antenatal visits, because it is during this visit when you will be in position to also really understand your status in there. That is also where, at the end of the day, we shall be seeing elimination, that is, of the new HIV infection, and that is also really through monitoring the viral load every 3 months. That is also really for that, and that is where, at the end of the day, we shall be seeing that. It is also goes back to mothers. HIV also really testing and late pregnancy also really can lead to that. And during breastfeeding period, HIV is also said to be transmitted in there. That means, as mothers, let's ensure we timely visit the health facilities. And that is where we have chances of also limiting this transfer to our children. And today we have children who are born negatively, yet the parents also are positively. And that is also through interventions we must also really interest ourselves in. And that is where, at the end of the day, we shall be seeing that and increase resources, and that's solely boosting also domestic funding for HIV prevention, treatment and care by 2030. And if you look at that, increasing resources is definitely quite good, because HIV mainstreaming is also a district annual operation program, and giving these monies will also enable the medical doctors move out to these community members and talk about this disease, and then strengthening community-led responses and ensuring 80% of communities have functional community-led health services by 2030 is another strategy. Improving data collection analysis is another way, and fostering partnerships and collaborations is also really another way to go. Now, strengthening partnerships among government, civil society, and private sector stakeholders to accelerate progress towards ending AIDS is also another way to go, which I feel people must also really interest themselves in also really learning that. Now, these stakeholder coordination meetings are to also make that possible. And while the commemorations is also another way that we also really hope will work towards already fostering partnerships and collaboration. And I really want to say, during these commemorations, we had over 30 partnerships where we did see many partners of the NGOs, government coming up together to also really talk about that. And that is the way to go, to raise awareness. And that is also really what we must also really be able to talk about. And collaborations which will also, at the end of the day, also really make sure, also realize that we have talked about really HIV for quite a long period of time, and I believe it is also really a call now to parents and young people, and the men always also to learn from that. Now, to parents, you have been encouraged, that is to also spend quality time with your children and set an example for them to follow. As a parent, you do not have to also really move outside, neglect your parental duties. You have to be with them. You have to set a trend which they will admire. That is exactly how we shall be seeing the HIV rate also really being reduced. Now, create an enabling environment at home for your children to freely discuss about body changes and HIV. Be a parent whom children are not going to be fearing, but a parent, of course, children will respect. That is true. Also really make sure you also really that parent who has a listening ear to what the parents and the children also will be able to also really share with you. And really have been to families where children are very free with their parents and really realize it is working out. In case of any small problem, a child will not fear. But I've also really been to families where the parents are very much hot. Children will not be free with this discussion, and that is how, at the end of the day, it will be very much difficult for them to open up. And once children start also really fearing and not opening up to you, just know there is a problem, which at the end of the day is going to be also really impacting, of course, negatively. And then the call to young people, we have been also really told, abstain from sex until you're ready for the consequences, and take the responsibility that comes with it. Very much key. Abstain from sex until you're ready for the consequences, and taking the responsibility that comes with it. One of the responsibility is pregnancy. Secondly, HIV itself and the other STIs. So as a young person, you must be ready for that. And your partner's HIV status is not yours, stop the excuses and go for HIV testing. This is the young people, you must always move to have yourselves tested, because your partner's HIV status is not yours. You may be saying, I tested myself. What about that partner? Is she tested? Do you know her status? Remember, you cannot measure HIV just through looking at somebody. Maybe saying that she looks healthy, he looks healthy. That is not possible. That is not how we measure HIV. We only measure HIV through testing. Today, it is quite possible to young people, you can actually have oral test. You can also test yourself from home. The measures have really gone up. You can buy the self-testing kits and get them also, and also have yourself tested if in case you feel you do not have to move, that is the nearby areas. And then avoid peer pressure. This is actually the main contributor to HIV infections among the young people, quite common among also the adolescents, most especially towards secondary and then higher stages of learning. You will see stories. This one comes and tells the other one, I did this and that. Tomorrow, the same group will also want to go and do this. I've had also several interventions with discussions with young people. They always tell me about this. So I think it is something which we must also be able to talk about to them. And many times they may also not be understanding the consequences of engaging in early sex. And this is where we have seen friends sleeping together just because they had stories. This is something, of course, we must also really talk to young people about. Now, support your partner, that's to men. To support your this is to the men, support your partner to breastfeed, have adequate health meals and take medications and as prescribed. That is only something which we feel will also at the end of the day reduce the HIV infections. And remember, as a man, you can only achieve your dreams if you stay healthy and stay safe from HIV. As a man, that is the call which medical persons already have made to you. Remember, as a man, you're the head of the family. If at all you start falling sick, and then at the end of the day, you may not also be able to solely execute your duties as expected in there. Now, medical circumcision can help reduce the risk of contracting HIV, but also it's not 100% protective. And remember, this also increases your chances of getting HIV, AIDS, and circumcision must also be used with other prevention methods such as abstinence, faithfulness, and above all, using condoms where you feel you cannot live without having sex. It is something you must also really be able to ask, but sometimes really it is really quite absurd where people don't want to use condoms. They say, how do you lick a sweet when it is covered? Very much negative perception which I feel must also be kept out of ourselves, and then at the end of the day, that is when we shall be seeing also the HIV rates reducing in this country. And I think we have talked very much about HIV AIDS now, right? Also where we channeled the 1 hour. That is entirely to HIV, but now we are going to be stopping with that discussion in there. And remember, as we are celebrating the 16 days of activism, it is quite possible for us also to advocate for a gender, what we call gender-based violence-free society, which at the end of the day would enable all of us live peacefully. And that is where we shall be seeing also really, that also really making it possible. Remember, alcohol consumption is said to be on the rise, and that is another factor which also is contributing to HIV infections. Now, a surge in the number of Ugandans who frequently take alcohol presents a challenge that is to the health sector and also lives of consumers. A senior official in the Ministry of Health has warned, remember, despite also really a recent call to have also a law that will also enable alcohol consumption also to be reduced. That also, of course, was thrown out, and up now we are still following up on that. And Dr. Hafsa Lukwata, the Acting Assistant Commissioner for Mental Health and Substance Use Control at the Ministry of Health, says the number of people in Uganda who consume alcohol has jumped from 55% to 62.7% in the country of nearly 46 million people, and that is also really a worrying statistics if at all the numbers are on the increase. And her remarks follow that is a 2023 World Health Organization report, which indicated that on average a Ugandan consumes that is 12.21 liters of pure alcohol annually, and with men consuming about 9.93% liters of alcohol compared to women who consume that is 4.88 liters of alcohol, and that is exactly what we are seeing happening. And if you look at also alcohol consumption, that is really very much wrong, and that is quite also really true. Where you move men and groups, they neglect their duties. They feel they need to also really have a lot of time enjoying, and that at the end of the day also leaves their women to cheat. Something which I feel is happening, and today we have to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, then that is going to be quite absurd and quite difficult for us. Dr. Lukwata also really attributed the rise in alcohol consumption to the weak implementation, that's of the alcohol consumption control policies and what we call unfair taxation system that favors bar operators compared to other businesses, and that is where we feel the bars must be charged to make sure also that people who move to these bars feel the pinch of this alcohol, because if alcohol is as cheap as 3,000, somebody may still take 20 bottles. And if you move to these night happenings, you will see that happening. You will see that possible, where people also call it table. The tables are always filled with alcohol, and one person takes over 20 bottles, and that is why we feel this statistics already is contributing to also what we are seeing. And if you move to the mental health department, the numbers also really of young people who are brought because of alcohol is also really on the rise. I feel definitely something should be done. And the official of the Ministry of Health has cautioned merrymakers against too much alcohol consumption during the forthcoming festive season. And if you look at also really the dangers of alcohol consumption, definitely we have seen it also really negatively impacting, most especially during the festive season, where I feel people also really must be able to sort of learn from that. They must also learn from the experiences that would, at the end of the day, make sure that also really negative reactions from alcohol should not contribute to them. Look at also the alcohol, what we call drink driving. In most cases, that is where we see issues coming up. And somebody was recently able to say that we are saying do not drink and drive, but the bars have parking yards. Where do these vehicles come from? Who brings these vehicles in there? And that is where we feel something needs to be done, and at the end of the day, that is where we shall be seeing this becoming possible. And remember also, if you overconsume alcohol, it's going to be also really making sure that you fall in other problems, first of all, of being raped. That would also really be, at the end of the day, very much dangerous for you. And then if you're not raped, it is also going to be increasing your urge to have sex, which at the end of the day is going to be also really increasing your risk of contracting HIV/AIDS in there. Now, Dr. Kenneth Kalani, a senior official in the Ministry of Health, recommends the development of legal frameworks to support the implementation, that is, of implementation of policies, increased funding, awareness campaigns, and down the dangers of alcohol, and establish rehabilitation centers for what we call also the victims of who are running mad as a result of alcohol consumption in all governments to support victims of alcohol abuse. Today we have people who can hardly live without alcohol. As early as 6 a.m., somebody is already drunk and somebody is already moving to the bars. That's to make sure that also really they take alcohol. So I think it is something which we must also advocate for, and we must encourage the young person to move away from that. Now, Nabagarika Development Foundation, the executive director, that is Andrew Muchibi, urged cultural leaders to intervene, that is, in anti-alcoholism efforts, and that will also, at the end of the day, make sure that the people reduce on the numbers of alcohol consumption that they also take. This goes back to cultural leaders. In Western Sub-region, we have quite a number of them. We have the Alur Kingdom that also can do a great job, and that is also through talking to people, and that would also at the end of the day make people who are in there also realize that indeed we need to take alcohol, but we need to take it with measures. We need to have limits. We don't have to overconsume it, and that is only at the end of the day make sure these dangers we are able to mention reduce. Then the Lubarakari, the paramount chief, is there. We need to see them also talking about that. Meanwhile, in also the Madisa region, we also have the king in there, and all that will definitely at the end of the day make sure that the people also really reduce on the rates of alcohol consumption, which are currently said to be very much high, and that would also really make sure that people so really reduce on the way they consume alcohol, and that would at the end of the day make sure, first of all, the dangers. First, if you really look at the dangers, one the danger you cannot also really exclude is money. Money is being involved. Somebody moves to the club and spends over 500,000 on alcohol, just on himself and friends, and yet this money could also be used for doing other constructive issues. That is also another danger of alcohol, because alcohol makes you, first of all, feel bossy. Sometimes you see people not speak alcohol during broad daylight, but at night you find them speaking English, and then that is also where you realize indeed alcohol is working. And I really feel as we are entering this festive season, my call to the public would be that let's avoid over-consumption of alcohol, most especially as we are getting closer to the festive season, because many of the times the dangers are quite clear. People will get HIV infection just because they were drunk. People will be involved in accidents where they either knock people or they are knocked just because they were in alcohol consumption. And that also at the end of the day makes it very, very much bad. And gender-based violence is also another factor alcohol brings about, because you're going to be drinking and you're going to be drunk. At the end of the day, you start looking for troubles from your spouses. Definitely it results into gender-based violence. So I think it is quite important. Let's learn from that practice. Let's avoid issues of over-consumption of alcohol. Let's drink, but let's drink small. Let's drink with caution. And at the end of the day, let's also make sure that we are safe. That also is what I want to make up a call as to the people also as we are getting closer to the festive season. Today is the second day into the month of December. That means we are counting about 22 days to Christmas. How is Christmas also coming on your side? Remember, the Christmas comes, we shall be entering the Boxing Day. The New Year is also online in there. All in all, that is how we shall be seeing the year also coming to an end. I really want to show you that the year is already coming to an end, but how is it coming to an end on your side? You need to also make sure you ask yourself that question, and that would, at the end of the day, make sure that you assess yourself in terms of the plans that you laid at the beginning of the year, because you must have also drawn plans. But how far have you achieved? If at all you have also not achieved, you do not have to give up. Next year is still coming up on board. You only need to make sure that you have strategies to attaining that, and that would at the end of the day make sure you improve on your livelihood. And that is also the one thing we must also make sure we also talk about, and that is where we must continuously pray to God. If at all you have not achieved, your time will come. And this is where we are coming to an end of the show also for now, because we are going to be continuing in the second hour. But for now, we are going to be taking a short commercial break that will be ushering us into the second half of the show. My name is Farish Majid. I know you must have had a busy weekend. For those in sports, definitely others could have celebrated. I do understand most people are actually excited because of the teams that they supported. They must have also won either. For those whose teams not win, definitely we are saying the next games are coming up on. That is where you need to now turn your focus. For now, we are taking a short commercial break. We shall be continuing in the second hour of the show. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Look out for StarTimes Solar to unwrap your lighting and entertainment experience this Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
At only 700 shillings daily charge, get yourself a StarTimes S50 that comes with lighting, phone charging, strong lithium battery, radio with a flash port and a Bluetooth speaker. For more entertainment needs, get yourself a StarTimes S130 that comes with an extra 32-inch TV screen and 2 years free StarTimes subscription. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
Hello, yes, you all come back 5 minutes after 8 o'clock. We are back with the show. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show that comes your ways every Mondays to Fridays, right from that is 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And in case you are just tuning to us right now, you are most welcome aboard. We started also in the first hour where we talked about HIV prevalence, where we also talked about alcohol consumption, which is said to be on the rise. And this is exactly what we must also be able to talk about in the next few minutes, where we shall be also looking at other issues which of course we shall be discussing in there. And remember, it's a Monday morning, a bright one also in Arua City, where we also not witnessing any signs of rain for now. But the due course of the day, you never know, things may turn out around. That is exactly what we are seeing in Arua City. Remember, we are on plot 39A, Weatherhead Park Lane, that's on Anyafio. And in case you are just watching us for the very first time, we are live, that's on sometimes the channel 477. We are as well there, that's on Azam, channel 369. On Zuku, we are also available, that's on channel 0073, not forgetting online, where we are online across all our socials, where you will be important to watch us each and every Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and you will be also really sharing your thoughts and opinions with us as we get to move on. And that is where we shall be also turning our focus into the second hour now, where we need to also look at some of the issues that we are seeing also in there. And if you look at all this, definitely also you realize there's a lot that we need to also look out for as we are also moving on. But really, if you look at all that, we did see also a report indicating that over 6,400 cleared to sit also for PLE on Monday. And remember, we did see the UNEP examinations getting done. Now the Islamic also sector will also be having theirs, where we are having a total that is of 6,491 candidates have been cleared. That's sit for 2024 Islamic primary living examinations, board under the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, which also will be kicking off today. And the two also day exercise will be conducted at 360 centers across the country. And last year, a total that's of 5,311 candidates sat for the examinations at 291 centers. And while flagging off the distribution of examination materials at the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council headquarters, that is on Old Kampala on Friday last week, Dr. Sheikh Ziad Swale Lubanga, the director that is of also Sharia with Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, hailed stakeholders for enabling Islamic education in the country, and that is exactly what we did see happening in there. Now, speaking earlier, Haj Mahmoud Katerega Sebuganda, the chairperson of Uganda National Examinations Committee, cautioned all education stakeholders sitting also this examination against malpractice, and that will also be very much bad. And remember, they have also been cautioned against that. Now, Sheikh Ismail Cheyune, the Islamic Primary Living Examination Board Secretary, outlined the examination timetable explain that the candidates solely will start start December 2nd, that's on 2024. We will also with also the Quran paper 1, that is Quran recitation and memorization in the morning, and fiqh, which also is Islamic jurisprudence, in the afternoon, and that is also how they will be sitting the very first also day in the meanwhile on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. The exams will also include that also look at Arabiya, that is mean Arabic language and grammar in the morning, and that they also will be starting also with Athrabiyat Islamiyat, that means Islamic ethics and history and traditions of the Prophet, and that is also where we shall be seeing them sitting for that in the afternoon, finalizing the day in there. And due to the current leadership wrangles, that's in Gelman Spring Council, that's in Uganda, which gave birth to two rival leaderships, that is one based at Old Kampala, that is led by also the Mufti, that's of His Eminence, that's Sheikh Shaban Mubaje Ramadan, and another Chibuli, headed by that Supreme Mufti, that is Shaban Galabuzi. Candidates in the schools also whose administrators subscribe to Chibuli Parallel, also will sit the examinations at Uganda Quran Schools Association, and that's where they will be having their own examinations, where a total that is 7 candidates under Uganda Quran Schools Association have also been cleared to sit for the examinations in there. That will be also taking place in August, where 284 centers were established. Now, according to Sheikh Ahmad Yahya Lukwago, the chairperson, that's of Uganda Quran Schools Association, they organized in their PLE in second term to allow candidates solely doing dual curriculum also really have time to concentrate for their examination in there, and that means for the Uganda also the Quran School Association, that is for the Chibuli section, their examinations are always set early. Meanwhile, for all Kampala, it also comes towards the end of the year in there, and that is how we also see that happening. Meanwhile, look at some of the stories. PWDs decry the high cost of healthcare, another challenge which we are seeing happening in there, where persons living with disability from various groups gathered in Kanya, which is Wakiso district, to express their concerns about the high cost of medical services, which they feel is also really very much bad for them. Now, the group also comprising individuals with physical disabilities, spinal injuries, cerebral palsy, and dwarfism injuries cried out to the government for urgent intervention that's only improve on the health sector, where they have been incurring also the costs when it comes to healthcare. Let's just look at it from the perspective of the wheelchair. How much are these wheelchairs costing? Let's start the discussion from there. How much do you think these wheelchairs cost? Last time we tried buying the wheelchair for one of our neighbors who got also an accident and became disabled. And by the time of looking for the wheelchairs, we thought these things may be around 200,000, but to our dismay, these things go up to 600,000. Others also reach out up to 800 or 1 million. So how many of the persons living with disability are out there and can afford these wheelchairs? That is where I expect governments to come up with regulations and to make sure that the issues affecting the person living with disability are also given keen attention to. And Mylene Chomhendo, a victim of spinal injury and member of Spinal Injuries Association Uganda, shared heartbreaking experiences where she also said out of 372 men with spinal injuries, only 5 can afford artificial insemination in hospitals, and that is exactly what we are seeing happening in there. Now, the cost of artificial insemination, which most men also really with spinal injuries rely on for sexual reproduction, is a staggering what we call 10 million shillings. That is also a price that also that out of the rich also many cannot also afford in there. And Chomahendo emphasized that this also really is a limitation, not only affects their ability to also have children, but also really takes a toll that's on their mental health and marriages, and it torments also them mentally because some had not so given birth, but before also the time of also the injury, which can also allow them have sex normally now. And that is exactly what many people who got spinal injuries are today suffering from. And the group also is calling on government to subsidize artificial insemination services, enabling men, PWDs, to have children and enjoy also a better quality of life. And they also highlighted the need for medical personnel in health facilities to be trained to cater for the specific needs of the PWDs, particularly those with spinal injuries and pressure injuries. And that is exactly what we did see happening in there. Meanwhile, we did see Apollo Mukasa from Uganda National Action on Disability emphasized the PWD also face numerous health-related challenges that often also adequately addressed in health services and are also on prohibitively expensive. And if you look at the drugs, also these PWDs also really swallow then you realize these drugs are very much expensive. Just look at the people who also get spinal injuries. Those drugs they buy are very much expensive, and in most cases are not within the health, maybe health centers and the health facilities where free drugs also can be given. They're always subject to pharmacies, to buy them from the pharmacies, but which of course are always very much expensive. Susan Sabano from the Umbrella Cerebral Palsy Network Uganda highlighted the importance of wheelchairs and other mobility devices for individuals with cerebral palsy. However, she noted that also that these devices are often expensive and not readily available, creating a significant barrier for families. Really, this is something which I feel is quite true. But how do we create that enabling environment for these children, and most especially these persons also living with disability, who get these accidents, who get also disabled through accidents, who are also at the end of the day very, very much depressed? How do we make that environment enabling for them? Isaac Isabire, from the Foundation of Persons Living affected by Dwarfism Uganda, shared the unique also challenges faced by individuals with dwarfism, including that what we call access to delivery beds, high delivery charges, and limited availability of drugs to strengthen their weak bones, and that is also something which they go through, and I really feel government therefore needs to also give a listening ear to the persons living with these disabilities, and that is where at the end of the day they will be getting that environment which will make them happy. Because if you look at all this, definitely the environment is not yet suitable for them, and that's why they are also talking about all that. And that is where we did see the PWs are urging the government to take immediate action to address these concerns and ensuring that they have access to affordable and inclusive health services. Remember, we also are all focusing on health service that also promotes us all. That therefore also tells that we must also really be able to also really talk about all that, and that is where at the end of the day we shall be also really seeing also really this fight against sort of the stigma reducing, and that is where we shall be also really seeing that also really very, very much important in there, and that is where we are going positive in the discussion. And as we get move on, let's remember that anybody is a potential victim to disability, God forbid, but we must always also really learn to live with them. Let's also think about them, because some of them also really get disabled in broad daylight, simply from accidents, from sicknesses, and then somebody becomes disabled. We have seen people who are having stroke and they have become disabled, yet they were born free. So that tells us that each and everyone out there is a potential candidate of disability. That means we must always live with them. We must create that enabling environment for them, and they must also really feel that they're not being they're not being neglected, and that is where we shall be also leaving that discussion aside. And remember, one of the causes of disability is always accidents, and if you talk about accidents, we are witnessing a rise in accidents, and we are likely to also witness more accidents coming up, because over the years during festive season we tend to witness so many accidents, and that is where we did see also an accident being registered in Rwanda, where 10 people were confirmed dead and 32 others also left injured, as they were also in a taxi that overturned. But really, this is what we also talk about. How many people are supposed to be carried in a taxi? 14. 30 plus 10, 42. Only one taxi. So I think this is something also which we feel is really, really very much wrong. And at least 10 people are confirmed dead and 2 others critically injured after a taxi Toyota, also what we call drones, we are traveling also in overturned. That's on the Rwanda to Kabale Road. That was on Friday, and that means people are not also adhering to the traffic laws of 14. And if you look at the drones, they're actually mandated to carry only 14. But if now they're carrying more than 40, that means people are overloading these vehicles. And the ill-fated taxi, that's UBK 037K, is subject to have been carrying Congolese nationals. These are the escapees also from Rwamijwamba refugee camp in the Kamonje district, according to Eli Mate, the police spokesperson for that region in there. Now, particulars of the deceased and the injured are not established by now, and the injured we are also really evacuated for medical attention. That is also really, while the bodies of the deceased were transferred to the hospital mortuary for post-mortem in there, and that is at the Kabale Regional Referral Hospital, where currently they are being kept in there. Now, Kabale Regional Referral Hospital Director Philbert Nyeko said the deceased are 5 children and 5 adults who are also really said to have died in that accident in there. Now, that is exactly something we did see happening, but we are saying avoid tendencies of overloading these vehicles. Now, the development comes on the heels of reports that Uganda faces an alarming rate of road crashes, resulting in severe injuries and disabilities for survivors, and many victims also struggle to access care, and others also lack support, leaving them financially and emotionally drained. And Uganda traffic also statistics reveal that more than 20,000 road crashes are taking place annually, with 20,000 also road crashes annually, with 5 fatalities. Many survivors are also left permanently disabled, and that is exactly what we are seeing happening. And remember, earlier when we talked about disability, it means accidents have often also already caused that. And remember, we are still, as a country, witnessing a lot of disasters, where others already, we are seeing mudslides happening. Elsewhere, we are also seeing floodings. That means we are likely to witness also negative activities happening and coming up our way, but we are not praying for that, and we hope at the right time. That is exactly what we shall be also really seeing, that also really improving on. But we must also improve on our health sector. We must also really improve on our roads. And as passengers, you have the mandate to tell the drivers, avoid overspeeding. You have to tell them, because you are in charge, you are the one paying for them. If at all they're overloading, walk out of that taxi, walk out of that vehicle. Tell them you're not going to be traveling this vehicle. Unite. But sometimes I do understand that passengers disagree. Once a driver is overspeeding, others will always be in support. That is quite wrong. We must speak the same language, because if at all we are involved in accidents, all of us are going to be becoming victims. It may also be you who is supporting to die. So I think it's really quite wrong for us to be advocating for that, and we must always tell the people to avoid tendencies of accidents, because usually over the weekends we witness a number of accidents because people are excited, and overexcitement can actually lead to also really some of these accidents. That is really something which we feel as the viewer right now you must also be able to take up a keen interest in. And if you are really maybe going for alcohol, move with another person who is not going to be drinking to make sure this person transports you. And that is where at the end of the day we shall be seeing ourselves safe on this road. With the festive season, I believe, just like you, definitely we know accidents are also already said to be rampant, but it's quite possible. One of these days, I will be bringing one of the officials from the traffic department of Uganda Police to also really come and also sensitize the locals, most especially you, the viewer, about safety ahead of the festive season. And that is also something which we shall be discussing later on in the coming days, where I will be inviting them to sort of come out and talk about that. And that is what we shall be discussing as we get to move on. And now to summarize also this hour, as we get to move on with some of the stories, remember we did see also already issues happening, and that's at Uganda Law Society, where many people have also been talking about all that. And also we did see also already as people being suspended, and that is exactly what we did see happening, but we are still going to continue with that. And at the right time, we shall be also already having those discussions as we get move on. And remember, we did see that happening, and we hope at the right time also we shall be giving you more of the details in relation to that. Now we did see the former Uganda Law Society president, that is Fiona Wal Nabasa, hitting back at Semakade after damning allegations. And that's what we did see, where former Uganda Law Society president Fiona Nabasa Wal has refuted a raft of claims made by the sitting leader, that's of the Uganda Law Society, Isaac Semakade, about her leadership. Miss Wal on Saturday also already saw her bid, that's for second term as Uganda Law Society representative on the Judicial Service Commission, thrust by Semakade, who said the allegations and irregularities such as condoning sexual harassment, led government and also government ill as well, also already banging up also already elections to the Judicial Service Commission. And that's what we did see happening. And Ms. Wal on Sunday also responded with a strongly also really open letter titled "Open Response" to President Isaac Semakade, that also posted on X platform, former known as Twitter. That's sort of what we did see, where she refuted his accusations and defended her record. One of Mr. Semakade's central claims was that Wal and her council suppressed election, that's of the Judicial Service Commission ex-representative, and also addressing this, was that the JSC appointments during my tenure were made in accordance during also with the Judicial Service Commission Act and the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. And that's exactly what we did see happening in there. That means the issues within the Ugandan society also are not yet settled. We are still following up on. The dust is not yet settled, and we are clearly following up on, and we shall be seeing also more of that coming. And by contrast, Ms. Wal criticized Semakade's leadership approach, alleging that he imposed restrictions on participation, that is in Ugandan society activities, and she asked reflection on the historical judgment of leadership styles and tolerance, highlighting also and highlighting administration achievements during the COVID-19 pandemic. Ms. Wal noted efforts to address unlawful arrest of lawyers, clear enrollment backlogs at the Law Council, and advocate for what we call affordable office space and medical insurance for members. And that's where we did see Mr. Samakade respond to us open letter with the fiery post that's on X, which also read that good riddance, we shall now expose you properly as a liar and a fool. Thank you for digging your own grave, and the time for accountability is here. That means he has no kind words for whoever feels did not also do very, very much well in there. But how do you really see this? Where do you think this puts the Ugandan society at? Just because really, if you look at the way business is being conducted, are you happy about the way business is being conducted? Do you think Uganda Law Society is on the right track? And the escalating exchange that has triggered also widespread debate within the legal fraternity, of course, that is between the former and the current leaders of the Uganda Law Society, and that is where we are also seeing many people expressing mixed reactions about this, and with many also weighing on the importance of the unity, transparency, and accountability in professional association. And I feel unity is actually the way to go. And I feel the current leader needed to work with also the former leaders to make sure he pushes and also corrects on their mistakes, to make sure he betters up his leadership and also his work in there. And that is where we did see that happening. And of course, many people are not happy about that, because lawyers are always taken to be persons of integrity and always taken as to be persons of high respect. And that is what we did see happening in there. And we feel at the end of the day, that is where we shall be also receiving that. Remember, over the weekend still, we did see the Equity Bank, also the managing director, resigning, and that's something which also asked many people also asking themselves, why? And this was in Kampala, where the Equity Bank Uganda Limited also officially announced the resignation of its managing director, that is Anthony Chituka, and Mr. Chituka's departure effective on November 28th has been accepted by the board of directors, and he will serve a notice period. That is to ensure what we call a smooth transition as the search for his successor begins. And that is what we did see happening in there. Mr. Chituka has been also with Equity Bank since 2014, serving as the executive director from 2016 and taking over as the managing director. That's in November 2022, and that is what we did see happening in there. Meanwhile, under his leadership, the bank has achieved significant milestones, including reaching that's a customer base that of 2.2 million, and amassing also deposits nearing that's shillings 3.3 trillion. And Equity Bank Uganda also released loan book is valued at 1.7 trillion, while its also total assets stand that's at approximately 3.5 trillion. And the bank also distinguished itself as an industry leader in agency banking, boasting that's nearly of about 9,000 Equiduca agents and branch network of about 50 locations, recognized also as a domestic systematically important bank, and that is what Equity Bank is also known for, and that is exactly what we did see happening in there. But really many people have been asking themselves why the man resigned, because at the position of managing director, many people will feel that is so maybe a presidential position which nobody would also wish to live in there. But now that is also what we did see, where the managing director actually resigned and left the position. Now the position is vacant for the members also to identify the next managing director in there. Now, Mr. Mark Ochiti, the chairman of board of directors of Equity Uganda, commended Mr. Chituka for his dedication and contributions that's to the bank, also where we did see him now resigning, and that is exactly what we did see happening in there. But many people have been asking, why will somebody leave such a presidential position and just resign at will? Because in most cases we see people being fired or others retiring. But resigning, it's quite also really very much difficult for many people to believe in, and that is where also the many people have been feeling unfair and also maybe feeling unhappy about what also happened in there. And that is where we shall be also leaving the discussion aside, and really as we move on with the discussions, remember we're just counting 2 minutes to the next half, and really that is also where we shall be taking a short commercial break, and we shall be continuing with the discussions from there. But really, as we get to move on, how is also the year coming to an end? As a quick reminder, if at all you ask yourself, How are the plans that you laid at the beginning of the year moving? Have you achieved? How maybe do you rate yourself? Is it so far so good? Or you can explain? Because when you say we can explain, then that means things are definitely moving rightly. But you can still achieve whatever you want to achieve. It's quite possible. And that is where we also hope at the end of the day, you also as the viewer, get to also move on. Because if you don't move on, then definitely you are going to be lagging behind. And it is quite possible. In this remaining few days of the month, you can still do something. It actually starts now, where you must also have the belief in yourself, and then determination, and above all, moving out to achieve is what matters. And with that, we are going to be taking a short commercial break. When we bounce back, we are going to be continuing with more of the discussions. And this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV. That is on channel 477 on StarTimes, on 0073 on Zuku, and 369 on Azam, and also online across all the social media platforms where you can be in position to watch us every time, Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And that is the beauty of the station. For now, we take a short commercial break. When we get back, we shall be summarizing the day.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Look out for StarTimes Solar to unwrap your lighting and entertainment experience this Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
At only 700 shillings daily charge, get yourself a StarTimes S50 that comes with lighting, phone charging, strong lithium battery, radio with a flash port, and a Bluetooth speaker. For more entertainment needs, get yourself a StarTimes S130 that comes with an extra 32-inch TV screen and 2 years free StarTimes subscription. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back into the final half of today's show for today, and we are still continuing the discussions, and as always, we shall be summarizing the discussions with what's happening internationally, and of course, we shall also be summarizing it with what's happening in the world of sports, and that is how we shall be also continuing with the day. And remember, we discussed a number of issues, and most especially in the first hour, which we almost channeled, that is towards talking about HIV, where we talked about the prevalence and what we can do. In the second hour, we also talked about alcohol consumption, and now we are continuing the discussion and still looking at what's happening elsewhere. And remember, we shall be connecting to also Alfred Jawok, who will be giving us an update of what's happening in there, that is in the Alu sub-region, where he will be letting us know of how they are doing it that side and what is coming up. Remember, as we are getting close to the end of the year, definitely so many issues are also going to be surfacing, and we shall be seeing more of that also coming up. And we hope at the right time, they will be in position to also give us that update as we get move on with the show. This is still the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV. In case you're just joining us right now, you are most welcome. And we are already into the final half of the day's also the show in there, and we shall be ending the discussion at exactly 9 a.m. That's when the AOLA's news team will be coming through with Fete Emmanuel. That also will be ushering us to the Northern Request Hour, and then the rest of the programs also will be following up in a planned manner in there. And that is how we shall be also continuing with the discussions. And I hope you are still with us and up to 9 o'clock. And that 9 o'clock, that's when I will be saying bye-bye. And the next crew also will be coming through also with what we call the AOLA's news bulletin in there. And that's how we are going to be continuing. And remember, so many is going to happen. And this is also across the entire also the region in there. And if you look at also some of the issues happening, definitely you realize also a lot of activities have been happening, and definitely all that is also something which I feel I will be also really talking about. Now, a police officer has been arrested over theft of vehicle batteries. Very quite absurd and very much embarrassing. That discussion will be coming through later on. But for now, let's first connect to Alfred Jawok to give us an update of what's happening in the greater Aluru sub-region. Alfred, good morning.
Good morning, Faris Majid. Good morning, West Nile viewers. Good morning, everyone watching us at this time.
Okay.
Yes.
As we are already into the final month of the year, it's the second day of the month of December. What exactly is happening maybe in that side of the region? What are we expecting?
Yeah, Faris Majid, once again I want to thank you for your show, and as I talk now, I'm at the Nebi District Local Government headquarters, where we expect officials from Office of the Prime Minister. They will come and hold assessment meeting with the district officials. Right now, like about 5 minutes to come, we are going to have them. It will be an engagement meeting where they will assess the performance of the district in all sectors, health, education, works, and everything. And we promise that we shall keep our viewers posted on this. And this is one of the activities going to happen today, this morning.
Yesterday, Alfred, we had what we call the World AIDS Day celebrations globally. Maybe, is there any district that also join in celebrating this in the greater Aluru sub-region?
Yeah, we had a World AIDS Day celebration in Pakwas district held yesterday at the Pajobi Primary School in Pakwas Council, Pakwas district, whereby so many issues were raised. People living with HIV in Pakwas district, they have raised concerns over the prevalence of HIV in the Pakwas district, and also people who do not want to take up their drugs, the level of maybe going to hospital, going for testing, others they don't want it, and also pregnant expectant mothers in some of the rural health facilities like in Day, Wadilai, they also get challenges of transport to go, maybe for those who have been enrolled at the Pakwachal Center 4, they get challenges of logistics to go and take their drugs.
Okay.
And this is also one of the issues raised during the celebration of World AIDS Day yesterday in Pakwach District. I got an opportunity to speak to Pakwach District Chairperson, Honorable Omito Robert Kim. He also highlighted some of these challenges that some of the people living with HIV/AIDS, others, they prefer to go and get treatment from very far, which it becomes expensive for them.
Okay.
And he advised them, at least they should be brought back to the nearest health facility where they can be able to access those facilities for their drugs. And also I spoke to Deputy RTC Pakwach District, Mr. Felix Twaip Ashile. He also raised the same question, and he also raised the concern over the increasing number of commercial sex workers within the Pakwach District,
Okay.
which has become as one of the leading causes of HIV/AIDS in the district.
Okay, if I-
Remember, yes,
I was going to ask, maybe what is fueling the increase, that's of commercial sex workers in that area?
one, Farish Majid, you know, most of these girls have taken it as a business, and some of them do it openly. And also, they don't use, maybe they don't always have protected sex, and that also leads to increase and also fueling the increase of HIV/AIDS in Pakwach District. And also how Pakwach District, Mr. Arake Dalili Moses, he said the district will come up with a resolution that they will also be moving sub-county to sub-county to educate and also to sensitize community on how they can protect themselves from HIV/AIDS and other transmitted diseases within Pakwach District.
Okay.
Away from that, Farish Majid, before we leave Pakwach District, you remember the incident which happened last month, because we are in the month of December.
Okay.
Farish Majid, it was a total national disaster in Pakwach District. And
Okay.
as I talk, 2 guns have not been recovered, and also some of the bodies are being looked for. And I went and witnessed myself. We searched for the guns in vain. We searched for the bodies in vain. But what is going on, the residents, the travelers are asking themselves, what can the UNRWA do to curb all this disaster? And
Okay.
remember, Paris Majid, this disaster came as a result of the works which were done on Tangi Road by Chinese. And that work caused all this because where the water can flow,
Okay.
it's not enough to
Okay.
accommodate the flow of water right from Tangi Gate. It used not to be there when the works were not done. So
Okay.
the people are agitating for a permanent solution to this,
Okay.
whereby they are requesting the government to construct for them
Okay.
a permanent bridge,
Okay.
a modern bridge like
Okay.
the one in Jinja.
Okay.
So that all these problems cannot be happening anymore.
Maybe if I ask right now, how is the state like? Are people moving? Has it normalized?
Yeah, traffic flow has normalized since these UNRWA, they were on the ground. They were grabbing some of the potholes. You know, when that water came, it washed away part of the road between Moya and the Pakwach District.
Okay.
So they are graveling, and also they are trying to level where motor vehicle can pass.
Okay.
And then we hope it will yield a good fruit
Okay.
in some days to come. But I hope when it rains again, floods will also come.
Okay, thank you so much, Alfred. I was able to see the members of parliament from this sub-region also agitating for what we call a permanent move to have also this issue addressed. Because if you look at the issue, it is mainly said to be a design issue, and I was able to see a West Nile parliamentary COKA chairperson, that is Feta, also really talking about that, and I was able to see him also advocating for that, together with Ayume, the MP also from Koboko in there. And I really want to say this is something we are keenly following up on, and want to see how West Nile sub-region also will not be having issues of the road sector again. Remember, when we talk about disaster, West Nile and Bulambuli are actually suffering from that, where we're talking about hailstorms, where people have been buried. And I was able to see also really the Minister for Disaster, the Minister for Disaster, and also really relief preparedness also moving in there to see what was happening. And remember, this is something also really which I feel sometimes are avoidable. Some of these deaths are avoidable. If you look at the issue of disaster, the warnings are always quite clear, but sometimes people find it very much difficult to relocate. Let's also focus on what happened in the Elgon sub-region. In parts of Bali, people were relocated, but these people also went back. And I tried asking what could have caused that. That the lands that these people were given to them were not enough. People were given small squares of also land. And for them, they were used to maybe cultivating. The lands are not also really matching to where they are being also taken. And that is what is forcing many people to go back. Others say hunger cannot kill them in their areas where they are visitors, but they will rather go back. And we see them going back. And I feel government needs to come out and do something about all that. So I think at the end of the day, as we're talking about disasters, indeed these disasters are still with us, and we therefore have to do some things about them. And that is how at the end of the day, we shall be seeing also an end to what also is happening in there. And it's quite possible we need to do something also really about all that. And that is how we shall be also putting an end to what is happening also really global across the country. And if you talk about disaster, we have a whole ministry that is also to make sure that people are also prepared ahead of all that. And that is where we shall be also keeping that discussion at hold as we get to move on with the discussions. And remember, I was talking to you about a story in Jinja, that is in Jeru, where a police officer has been arrested for stealing batteries from cars. And that is how we shall be also continue with the discussions in there. And really, if you look at that, police in Jeru municipality have also arrested one of their own over alleged theft of vehicle batteries from trucks parked at the UNRWA also really yard near the Nile Bridge. Now the suspect was reportedly also on duty when the theft occurred, and the case filed under CRB 783 Stockton 4 has also withdrawn widespread condemnation because police are there to guard property and lives. And now where we also see people who are supposed to also guard are the ones also doing this negative behavior, and then it is very, very much wrong. Now, according to reports, the truck Efuso, register number that's UBD833W, broke down on November 22nd, 2004, and was parked at the UNRWA yard. Now the theft was discovered the following morning when two batteries were found missing, and Adam Wagongo, a 17-year-old, the vehicle's turnman also, and a resident of Soroti City, filed a complaint. That's of November 27th, and that is exactly what we need to see happening there. Now initial investigations led by the DPC in Jeru, Superintendent of Police, that's Hussein Mugarura, revealed a CCTV footage also showing a male traffic officer taking away the batteries, and that is what we need to see happening in there. Now Lieutenant Bernard Beja, an army officer overseeing UNRWA security, flagged the footage for review, and the police officer was arrested. That's of Njeri Police Barracks, was identified and arrested. Now authorities also alleged that he left his colleagues under the pretext of responding to an accident, returning home to commit the crime. And now statements solely have been taken from the officers and UNRWA personnel present the night, and also the divisional scene of crime. Also the officer also has also examined the extent of the scene as well in there. Now a detailed analysis of the CCTV is ongoing, and that also is very much wrong, because as a police officer, we do not expect you, who is first of all expected to guard people's lives, also really becoming also really part of the thieves. And then that is quite absurd. Very much wrong. Now suspect remains in custody of Nzeru Central Police Station as inquiries into the matter also continue. Now leaving that, as we get to move on, that's in Mubende, where over time we have been talking about power blackouts because the transformer was down. Now we did see also outrage also rising, where the people demanded for Umeme to come out and also to come to their response. Now we are seeing that also happening, where Umeme is installing new transformers following also the power outrage protests in the districts also from that is also Mubende, where threats also have been coming up, where the postal threatened to demonstrate. Now, Mubende municipality residents can also finally breathe a sigh of relief after Meme also installed a new transformer in Kasekende, a village, and the installation that's on November 29th also 2024 came in response to mounting pressure and warnings of strikes over also the prolonged power outage that also really caused significant losses, that is in the affected villages. Now the outrage had also really stirred frustration among the residents and local leaders, prompting them to seek media attention to resolve the issue. And Abraham Chigundu, the Kasegene Wanda Councillor, created also really efforts for bringing the issue to light and influencing Umeme's response, and that is exactly what we did see happening now. Residents echoed his gratitude, noting that media coverage played a crucial role in averting some of these issues, and that is exactly what we did see happening in there. Now, Sylvia Nasazi, the chairperson of Namugongo village, urged them to address the issue of tampering, particularly by grasshopper dealers who also really steal power. And now with this setup happening, and Peter Chitiamu Waisi, the Umeme's manager for the Mubende branch, reassured also residents of the ongoing efforts to improve electricity distribution in the area, and the new transformer installation marks a significant step towards restoring reliable electricity supply in the Mubende district, and that is also a hope that these people will now have reliable electricity access in Mubende district as a part of the efforts to have electricity in there. Now, however, residents and leaders remain vigilant, calling for sustainable solutions that will prevent power outages. And that is exactly what the leaders and the residents of the area are advocating for. Now, as Mumbe continues to address the challenges, the episode highlights the power media also in amplifying the issues, and that's sort of what we did see happening in there, and that is where we shall leave the discussion aside with. And as we get move on, remember recently Besije was arrested, and now Martha Karua's accusation delays clouds Besije defense. And remember, Martha Karua also promised to be part of the legal team that will also be advocating for the release of Kano, retired Kiza Besije, who was arrested in Kenya, who had also gone for the launch of the book that is also for the former also delegate in there. Now the accusation of Martha Karua, a senior counsel from Kenya and lead advocate for Dr. Kiza Besije, remains uncertain just a day before the March in the court-martial hearings. Now, despite submitting all requirements, that's the Uganda Law Council, on November 25th, Ms. Karua has not received the special practice certificate necessary for her to represent Dr. Kiza Besije in Uganda. Remember, Karua is a foreign national, and she also, if at all she is to stand, that is for Besije, and then she has to adhere to certain calls. And now Karua's application, which highlighted also her credentials from Kenya's High Court, also a practicing certificate, issued that's on August 26th of this year, and the letter of instruction also from Lukwago and company advocates meets all the statutory requirements for her to also move and also advocate for the rights of Dr. Kiza Besije. However, the Uganda Law Council's silence on has left also the Besije defense team in precarious positions, and also as they prepare for a politically sensitive trial. And the advocates also of Uganda chapter, that is also 267, explicitly also allows foreign lawyers practicing in Uganda for specific cases if they obtain a special practice certificate, and that is what also really Ms. Karua also really advocated for and also got. And Era Sukwago, a key member of Besije's legal team, has vowed to fight for Karua's accreditation, stating that we will do everything in our power to ensure Martha Karua is part of this case. And legal experts, however, warned that without the certificate of Ms. Karua, she will not also be permitted also to also really practice also in Uganda, and that is how they are feeling also really very much also really unhappy about. Now, known for her fierce advocacy for democracy and justice, Ms. Karua's absence will significantly also affect the defense strategy in their trial. Also really, that's where we did also see that happening. Now, as of December 2nd, hearing also approaches, Lukwago remains resolute, and that is exactly what we are keenly following up on. I want to see how, of course, that will be ending. And that also really is another discussion we shall be also letting you know come tomorrow, if at all she will be accredited in these remaining hours. And that discussion will be coming out tomorrow. And with that, we also want to summarize the day. But as always, we summarize with what's happening in the world of sports. And remember, we did see also the leagues returning. And over the weekend, we had a number of games played in Big League, where we did see Buhimba beating Arua Hill by 2 goals. That also is adding injury to the wounds of Arua Hill Sports Club, who are also not doing well, who are currently also already in the tail. We do have Buinda Boys, who also did beat Karo Karunji by 1-0. Maida was able to also register a 1-0 win over that's Ntunga Saze. And we did see on the Braka Football Club walloping, that is Black's Power, by 3-0, and that is how we did see also really that also really ending. Meanwhile, we did see by the Black End also really beating Kataka by 1-0. That means the West Nile sides are kind of not doing badly off, and that is how we shall be also really seeing that happen. And if you look at the table standings right now, Midigo Kalva from Yumbe district is currently on top of the log. We do have Gaddafi in the second place, Blacks Power is in the third place, and Onipuranga Football Club comes in the fourth place. Boma is in the fifth place, and we do have Paida Black Angels coming up in the sixth place. We do have in the seventh is Buimba, in the eighth is Chinda Boys, and ninth place is Gezi Homeboys. Kataka is in the 10th place, and Karo Karunji is in the 11th place. Meanwhile, for the danger zones, we do have Mtunga Sase at the 12th position. Arua Sports Club is on 12, and that's also where we are seeing Busoga United in the 14th place, and we do have Maida summarizing the tail also already in there. That is that's for big league. Meanwhile, in the Southern Uganda Premier League, which is the top tier of Ugandan League, we did also have games where Viper Sports Club had a goalless draw with Kitara Football Club. That is at the home, also at the St. Mary's home, and we did also see Lugazi playing a 1-1 draw. That is with Kampala Capital City Authority. Neck Football Club was able to beat Villa by 2-1. That's on 29th. And that is how also really the leagues in Uganda are actually getting quite interesting. And that also tells us of how the leagues are moving on. And if you look at some of the leagues also that we did see happening internationally, we had a number of games already being played over the weekend. And Arsenal also was also in the winning ways. And Liverpool yesterday was able to beat Manchester City by also 2-0 in there. And in La Liga, we also had interesting scenarios where Barcelona was beaten by Las Palmas, that is by 2-1. And this is also of the weekend. And we are able to see also Real Madrid returning back to winning ways, picking that 2-0 win over Getafe yesterday. And more details of what's happening in the world of sports will be coming through with Owen Ezaga, together with Linda Suzy, who will be here from 2 to 3 p.m. They will be giving us comprehensive and detailed analysis of what is, of course, making rounds in the world of sports. With that, we come to the end of the day's program. We shall be returning back tomorrow for the same program and the same time. That is also from 7 to 9 o'clock. In a special way, I want to thank you who watched us right from the time we began until this hour of the morning. I want to say thank you so much. I am proud of you, and I will be bouncing back tomorrow for the same program. I'm out. Up next is the news bulletin. Lubalati with Fete Emmanuel. Have a good day and a good week as well.